You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Myles Teteak, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are just diehard Packers fans, love talking about the Pack. We're not getting into all the distractions the national sports media wastes their time with. We're diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season and sorting through all the draft dreams and drama of the offseason. Now, here we are. If y'all want to support the pod, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to YouTube, type in Packers Talk Network. The network is important. It'll get you where you're going. Hit the subscribe button on our channel and give that little bell next to it a little click as well. It does us a great deal of help. We love our subscribers. You guys hanging out with us every week on Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Central. And here we are. So we got a lot to cover. We got a lot going on. The first unofficial day of free agency has kicked off. We got trades flying, Rashawn Gary gone, and all sorts of things to speculate about because maybe things have gone too quiet. Maybe they have. We don't know. But first, let's talk a little business. We got our show sponsored once again by Wisconsin's own Ticket King for over 30 years. Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets. Summerfest is coming up. To get those tickets, find them on the web at theticketking.com. Visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support all those local businesses out there, Wisconsin and otherwise. Tim, good evening, sir. How we doing?
Good evening. I'm doing good. Happy free agency tampering period day to you. Free agency frenzy day. I guess it was a frenzy, not so much for the Packers, but there were some moves, right? So it's a interesting start, I would say, to everything. If we take in the whole weekend and in the Monday, but they've been quiet, maybe a little bit too quiet. Maybe there's something brewing that could be coming in the next couple of days.
Well, they certainly have made some moves, right? We can't discount what's been done, but one thing you can't help but notice is the salary cap that the Packers have. I mean, the cap space, I should say, keeps going up. We start off with a little number. Now we got a bigger number. I think right now it's around 31. Is that fair? I think it's something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. They've created a bunch between the Rashawn Gary trade, Elton Jenkins getting cut, some restructures, Aaron Banks and Xavier McKinney. So they have the cap space. They haven't really done much with it yet. I mean, it's obviously very early, but yeah, it's been a little quiet, and they have some money to spend. It kind of feels like there's maybe a bigger move on the horizon here. I don't think there's very much to go after as far as like the unrestricted free agency market that's been picked over already. And when you factor in comp picks, like they really, unless you're going to go big, you probably should stay away from a lot of these guys and maybe target players who are released from other teams that don't factor into the comp picks formula. But there's a couple guys still out there that are unrestricted that maybe they take a big swing at, or maybe there's a trade coming down the pike that we don't know about that they're working on. But there's certainly, it kind of feels like they're going to be more active than they've been. But yeah, it wasn't a completely quiet day but it wasn't any kind of, they didn't make any big outside additions. They kept some of their own players, which is fine. And obviously the Gary trade was big news to start off the morning, but yeah, it's quiet. So what's next? What's coming?
Yeah, I think that's the question, and so I'll jump out there and let's see here. Actually, we got, as of an hour ago, looks like maybe an update on one of these rumors. Now, I know some of you may have heard that the Packers and the Eagles were chattering back and forth about a certain defensive tackle. So I don't know if there's anything confirming that, but here is a tweet from Easton Butler about an hour ago. The Packers and Eagles have continued dialogue today regarding defensive tackle Jalen Carter. Nothing is imminent, but other teams have called today as well. So not nothing, not necessarily something, but it wouldn't surprise me if the moves left to be made, as you're saying, are trades rather than free agency acquisitions, because it doesn't seem like, and there's a few names out there. Maybe we'll hit the free agency top list here in a few minutes. But it doesn't seem like there's, I don't know, a lot of maybe good value. I think the guys that are good out there might be getting overpaid. And speaking of overpaid, it seems like the receivers are just on a rocket trajectory with their salaries. Alec Pierce getting, what was that? Was it like 25 a year, 30, almost 30 a year?
Yeah, I think it was 27 or 20. Yeah.
Good Lord. I mean, he's not bad, but I didn't think he was that. Like, wow.
Christian Watson's agent just got really excited by Alec Pierce's numbers.
We're going to have to start asking ourselves if there's going to be a 3 in front of Christian Watson's deal, per year. So things are heating up, and you don't necessarily want to be the ones setting those records.
No.
Paying $114 million to Alec Pierce, again, good player, man, but I just think I'm passing on that. I think there's just different places you could allocate that money. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. Malik Willis goes down and gets himself a deal. What was that? Somewhere around like 32 a year? Is that what I saw?
No. He's closer to like 22 a year. Yeah,
okay.
There's some guaranteed money. It's like a 3-year deal that it's essentially like a 2-year deal where he's going to average like about 22 million in Miami. So good for him.
Good for him.
Obviously, he's got Hafley down there. He's got John Eric Sullivan as the GM. So makes a lot of sense. And Dolphins come up to play in Lambeau, so we'll see him next season. But good for Malik to get a starting job. And the Packers are going to at least a 4th-round compensatory pick for that. And if he ends up starting for them most of the season, which he probably should, Tua's not there anymore, it could get bumped up to a 3rd-round compensatory pick. So that's pretty good business for a guy that you traded a 7th-round pick for.
Definitely good business. Nice ROI on that one. So for all the Gute haters out there, 0.1 Gute, 0.0 you.
And how about the trade that started us off this morning? They got a 4th-round pick in 2027 for Rashawn Gary, who they were going to cut him. I mean, he posted his hacker posted his farewell message on Friday, if you believe he was hacked. So, I mean, it's been clear for months that they were moving on from Rashawn Gary. They weren't going to pay him that money. And all of a sudden, the Cowboys jump in and say, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for him. Okay.
Damn right you will.
If you would have told me they got a 7th-round pick for him, I would have said, sounds good to me. At least they got something.
Right.
But they get a 4th-round pick next year for him, and all for it.
Well, it was funny because Packers Twitter was definitely convinced that you couldn't get anything for Gary because he had totally sabotaged the trade, or his hacker had totally sabotaged the trade, which apparently not. My one rebuttal to that was, okay, something happened. There's murmurs. All right, you're gone. Okay, he slips. It's easy to assume that it could be a sabotage deal if the deal was for him. I'm thinking, if it's for him and all of a sudden they realize you could release him, that kills the deal. But then I'm thinking, well, if he's just part of a package, that doesn't kill a deal at all. In fact, the other team would be the one to say, hey, reel your guy back. He's ours. So that was what I thought. I thought he was part of a package and he spoke too soon. And the other team spoke up and said, that's our dude. And he's out here acting like he's about to hit the market. What did you do? But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. In fact, no. everybody's having a good laugh at Jerry Jones today. And I, as much as I enjoy, a dunk on my Cowboys fan friends, I don't like to just kind of rub their faces and, we won the trade. You lost the trade. Like, I'm not real big on that. But it's tough to tell them what to be excited about with that. We were optimistic about Rashawn Gary right up until this season, and the way he finished this past season, I don't know how anybody watched that and thought, I got to have that guy on my team. Like that to me was just atrocious. And it was kind of one of those things like, how are you putting this on film, man? Like, come on. Like, you look, if you're out in Green Bay, put better film up than this. Like, it was getting kind of bad, like, and sad. Like, he was maybe the fourth best pass rusher on a team that didn't even include Micah Parsons. You know, it's like, dude, like, what's going on here? He just disappeared. So to get a 4th round pick for that, that's a big deal, man. Packers win that trade for sure.
Oh yeah, it's an excellent job by Gute to get anything for him. Again, like if never expected them to be able to trade him, and that's why they held on to him instead of cutting him, a week ago or whatever it could have been. And to end up with a 4th round pick, even though it's next year, like great job. I mean I think he started off pretty well last season, first 5-6 games or so. He was doing well. Obviously Parsons' presence helped him a lot, but he was playing well, and then he just fell off a cliff. And it wasn't just a case of, well, Micah went out and he got all the attention. Like, he was already playing bad football by the time Parsons got hurt.
Right.
And it wasn't even so much how unproductive he was. It was just, you saw a lack of effort and a lack of just conditioning. And it's been a factor with him for years, is that he plays fewer snaps than most edge rushers. It seems most starting edge rushers, certainly guys that are making the money he's making. It was weird for years. Like, why does he play so few snaps? And then last year's numbers kind of ticked up in a little bit, and it kind of felt like it was like outside noise, outside pressure. And they were like, yeah, we're going to play him more this year. But then you didn't get the results with it. And the second half of last year, he was completely non-existent, a non-factor, to the point where you didn't even want him on the field. Like, by late, you wanted Inigbari out there, you wanted Van Ness out there, like anybody at that point. He was giving you nothing, and he was giving you low effort. So I don't know how anybody looks at that film and says, like, yeah, we want Rashawn Gary. I know he's still like 28 years old, and at one point a few years ago, before he wrecked his knee, he was a productive player, and he was on the upswing. Like, you could see the upward trajectory. And then he hurt his knee, and he came back from that, and he never really kind of got it together consistently. And then the last 2 years have just been bad football from him, especially again last season after like the first handful of games of the season. So yeah, I can't believe anybody would give up a 4th round pick for him. I can understand. It wasn't like he was going to get cut and nobody was going to sign him. Somebody was going to sign him. But to give up actual draft pick compensation for that, it's crazy. It's mind-boggling, and great job by the Packers to be able to get something for him.
No doubt about it. And the way that their compensatory picks are lining up, you're going to have a stack of 3rd and 4th round picks there. So, hopefully they can do something with those. I mean, they haven't been great in the 3rd round. Now, the 4th round is a whole different story. I mean, they've had some really good success in the 4th round. So I might say, hey, take as many shots in that round as you can. But either way, I'd love for them to consolidate some of those into a 2nd or 3rd, or a 2nd or a 1st round pick, excuse me. But yeah, the way that that's laying out, win Gute. Another one, like, point Gute, Gute haters, 0 points for you. He's winning this round pretty handily. And I'm trying to like kind of monitor the situation here live. We got another report out of Easton Butler 2 minutes ago. All right. So we're bringing some breaking news, breaking rumor. We'll call it breaking rumor. The Packers have been in contact with free agent Tariq Woolen since yesterday. Per source, interested in Woolen dates back to the deadline last year, with it picking up recently. There are other teams interested, which seems sort of obvious, but shout out to Easton Butler on Twitter again, working hard, getting some really good information out there. Great follow if you don't. So that's another one that could be a big addition there.
He was one of the names I was going to bring up. Like, if you want a big free agent splash signing, he's one of the few guys left at like a position of need for them, because all the other cornerbacks pretty much signed today. Like the top ones, Jalen Watson went to the Rams. He would have made sense. He got a lot of money, went to the Rams. Alontae Taylor from the Saints got a ridiculous contract from Tennessee. He wasn't really a fit for the Packers anyway, because he's more of a nickel, but he got paid. a lot of the corners are off the board, but Woolen is still there. And this Seahawks re-signed Josh Jobe. So I don't know if they have the money to pay Woolen too, and then they're going to have to pay Devon Witherspoon, who's their best corner. So I would think he's probably on the move. He's a big corner. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4", long arms and all that. He's got some major inconsistencies in his game. I don't love his game. But if you got him at a decent price, I'd be into it. I don't want him at the top of the market like some of these other cornerbacks have been going for today, because some of them are grossly overpaid and probably will be available again in a year or two when they're getting cut off those bad contracts that they got today. So if you get him at a reasonable number, sure. But I think he's one of the few guys that makes some sense for the Packers at a position of need.
Yeah, I agree. And, the Packers have usually been pretty good about not overpaying for guys or reaching too much. I hear you guys about Aaron Banks last year, but he just restructured, making some room. So we don't know exactly what that looks like, but at least that was able to happen. That's good. So I wouldn't expect them to go after a guy, for money that's going to make you go, ooh, are you sure? And, even at the beginning of this offseason, we talked about cornerback and where the value is and where you could have some additions. My thought was always that they would find, if it's going to be a veteran cornerback, they would find him in the trade market, because the free agent market didn't look great. It's all right. There's a couple pieces, but for the most part, you didn't have to go far down the list to get yourself to some guys that, like Asante Samuel Jr., who was out there for half the season. They didn't want him then, so it kind of steered me away from really having hope for a cornerback in free agency. But Riq Woolen is one of those that does kind of slip through the cracks on that and would be a great addition, especially if they can get him for a good value. In Russ Ball, we trust. But yeah, so that could be really interesting. The other side of that is the draft is loaded with corners. So, that's why it would be easy to kind of look away from free agency.
Yeah. Yep. And, I think if they don't get one, it's probably they go to the draft for that, because there's just not a whole lot out there, unless they're going to try to, sign somebody on the cheap that they think maybe they can turn around. Like, I know they've been connected to the dude from Cincinnati, Cam Taylor-Britt, but he hasn't been good for a couple of years, really, and he's had some injuries. So to me, that's a hard no. But if they, maybe there's an interest and they sign him for a low money deal, thinking they might be able to turn him around in Green Bay, I don't know. But if you miss out on Woolen, it's pretty picked over at corner. It's pretty picked over at nose tackle, where they could use somebody, though. We'll get to a couple names at nose tackle / defensive tackle. But yeah, Woolen makes sense if the money's right. So he might be their big free agent splash.
Yeah. And, maybe we really get a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We get both Jalen Carter and Riq Woolen. That would be a fun day of additions if we could get that news.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I just like the Jalen Carter thing's interesting because it didn't make any sense to me, because he's really good. Why would they ever give him up? But then they signed Jordan Davis, who's their other first-round pick defensive tackle, to a big contract last week. And it was like, okay, can they afford both of those defensive tackles? Like, I would pick Carter over Davis, but they went to Davis first. So, okay. And then they wanted to keep Jalen Phillips, who they had gotten in a trade last year at the trade deadline, played well for him. So I was like, okay, well, if they pay Jordan Davis, they're going to pay Jalen Carter. Is there enough money? Or I'm sorry, Jalen Phillips. There's enough money for Jalen Carter. But Phillips left and went to the Bengals onto the Panthers on a ridiculous contract today. So are the Eagles going to turn around and say, well, we just lost Jalen Phillips, we're also going to trade Jalen Carter? Like, it doesn't make sense why they would give up such a good interior pass rusher, unless there's a reason there. Maybe there's a, locker room or an off-field thing that they're not comfortable paying him a lot of money for. And then the other thing is, like, if you trade for him, the Packers then got to make him one of the highest paid defensive tackles in football. I don't know if they can cap-wise afford to do that. And then what are you giving up to get him when you don't have a first-round pick for the next 2 years? Like, there's got to be a team out there that the Eagles could get a first-round pick plus more for Jalen Carter, and the Packers can't match that. So, like, is it going to be picks and players involved? And then how does that even add up? So I'm sure they've checked in and, expressed interest in Carter. I just don't think it's going to get very far. I mean, never say never, because they made the Micah Parsons trade last year and that shocked me. So I think there's more than a 0% chance, but I would be equally as shocked as I was last year when they got Micah Parsons, because I don't think they have enough draft capital to make it work. And then you got to pay him too. But who knows? Crazy things.
Well, you just never know what
happen.
players they're asking about too. I've heard that Wicks is a name that has been involved in trade talks, and looking at the receiver room, it would make sense for them to move one of the guys. I'm sure they always want to keep adding talent. You want to bring in maybe some younger guy or two this year. I don't think they're interested in moving Reed. It seems like those rumors have all been shut down. But it seems like Wicks is a name that could move. If you're getting a combination, some type of package deal that includes Wicks, that could make sense, because they're probably AJ Brown hasn't left yet. He just wants to leave, right?
He's still there. Yeah, it's very much up in the air. I thought they would definitely trade him, and it hasn't happened yet. They keep saying, why were we going to trade a good player? I think part of that's just they don't want to give it away that they want to move him. Like they're playing the negotiating game and they're trying to get a first round pick for AJ Brown. So I still think he ends up going, but so far he hasn't yet.
Yeah, and a lot of things could impact that as you go through the schedule of the offseason. We got our friend Bill here this evening, says, are you down on Trayvon Diggs? I still would like to see Trayvon Diggs come back. If you could get him back on a reasonable number, and I would expect him to do that, to be honest, because he hasn't put a lot of good football out there recently. Seems to like the Packers. Obviously, he and Micah Parsons have a strong relationship. So if you can get him on like a 1-year prove it deal, which again, I would expect he would agree to that, would want to do something like that to be able to prove himself again. Absolutely, man. I want to see more of that guy. I mean, he's got talent. It's not like he's just a total bum or something. It's just he hasn't put a lot of good football out on the field, and who knows what's going on down in Dallas, man. Things are weird down in Jerry World. So I'd like to see Trayvon Diggs in a system that maybe is a little bit less nonsense. And that's a very surface level comment that's more of shots fired for me at the Cowboys than anything else. But again, like, a lot of guys have left Dallas and played better when they leave. So I would definitely like to see Trayvon Diggs. What about you, Tim? Oh, did I lose you?
I just think the longer he's out there and available. Nope, I'm here. We're cutting in and out, one of us.
All good.
The longer he's out there and available, it increases the chances. And all these cornerbacks are going off the market quick. Yeah, I think it's still a possibility that the Packers bring him back, but you're right. It would have to be like a low cost kind of prove it 1-year deal, which I would expect him to sign that, whether it's in Green Bay or wherever he ends up signing anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think it's still a possibility. It wouldn't be like that wouldn't be like my favorite thing. It wouldn't be what I would want them to do, but you get to a point where everybody else is kind of gone on the market, then why not give him a shot and see if you can, rehabilitate his career.
Yeah. I'd like to see that. But again, who knows what's going on? I think those conversations could have been had. Hey man, would love to have you back. Let us get through some of these things first, and then we'll have those talks. But yeah, I think Trayvon is definitely one of those that I'd like to see come in. And then, I guess as long as we're talking free agency, we're talking, Jalen Carter and trades and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I do. I wonder what the ultimate compensation is for him, because it's similar to the question with Micah Parsons last year. It's like, yeah, the player in a vacuum is probably worth quite a bit, but when you've got to follow that up with a big contract, well, okay, now not everybody's willing to give up, the farm just to turn around and give up more, so that's the part where I wonder, they say that there's others that are interested. There's other calls that the Eagles are having. I wonder what the real compensation looks like, because it may not be as much as we think, but his contract demands might be a little bit out there, So those are the questions you got to get answered. What I am seeing, though, is that the conversations have gone past the initial calls. They've had calls now 2 days in a row that have not ended in FU. So I think that this is fair to say that this is not just a situation where an agent called up Gute, hey, can we throw your name in this for leverage? Sure, go ahead. We don't care. We're in on all the conversations, right? It seems like this has actually turned into a real conversation. So monitor the situation, knowing how the pattern of our show works with breaking news. This will happen tomorrow morning. So
absolutely,
we will have to wait a whole week to talk about it.
You just know.
But give you guys something to look forward to in the morning. We'll probably have some great trade news as soon as you wake up. So there's that. All right. Now, gosh, we haven't even gotten to the player that we've brought in.
Well,
welcome.
Before we...
Oh, go ahead.
But no, I was just going to throw out there, a couple names as we're talking about free agency and what they could do. You mentioned Wallin. I want to throw out a couple other names that are still out there that maybe are possibilities. So I did see them a couple different spots connected to Javon Hargrave, who's going to be cut by the Vikings. He hasn't been cut officially yet. He is like 32, 33, but he played for Gannon in Philly. He was once a really good player in Pittsburgh and Philly. And then the last couple of years, he went to the 49ers. He was hurt for most of the year. Then he went to the Vikings and had a bad year. And apparently he's been, and I haven't seen this, but apparently he's been on social media saying like it was Flores' system, what he was being asked to do. He wasn't being asked to generate pressure and to shoot into the backfield like he had been. He was asked to kind of tie up blockers and play a different way than he's played his whole career. Probably some truth to that, but he is aging. But the ties to Gannon are interesting. And the fact that he's going to be released, so if they sign him, he doesn't factor into the compensatory pick formula. So I think there might be some truth to those rumors that they're interested in Hargrave. Another defensive tackle, nose tackle, who's going to be cut or has already been cut by the Cardinals, played for Gannon last year, Dalvin Tomlinson. Again, he's over 30, but he used to be pretty damn good defensive tackle with the Browns, with the Giants, with the Vikings. Big dude and run stuffer. Again, he played for Gannon last year, so he's got those ties. I think he's a possibility for Green Bay. And then, I don't think this is a possibility or anything like that, but just going to mention Trey Hendrickson still hasn't been signed. And they were interested in Trey Hendrickson last offseason.
So apparently. Is he an unrestricted free agent now?
He's unrestricted, yeah. And apparently they made calls on him last year before, the Micah Parsons stuff went down. I don't think there's any way. I still think he's going to get paid a lot of money by someone, Hendrickson. But, he was one of the top free agent available. And it's been quiet. He didn't get any of them, so far on Monday. He hasn't gotten signed.
I haven't even seen
kind of
rumors
interesting
around him today.
No, it's weird. So maybe he's not getting the market that they were expecting or hoping for. You never know. I don't, again, I don't think that's really logical or realistic for the Packers, but you never know. He's still out there. But yeah, it's not a great market now for free agents. I don't think it was very good to begin with before it started. It's really picked over. I think you got to look for guys who have some ties to Gannon defensively and guys who have been released so that, again, they don't kind of factor into that comp pick formula so the Packers can save those 4 comp picks that they want for next year. But those are some names that I've seen tossed around that make sense that maybe could be the move for him. And then I definitely think trades are still a possibility because we already saw the trade over the weekend that we're going to talk about here in a second. That may be another way for them, to avoid going out and signing free agents and overpaying. Yeah.
And they've clearly already shown that they're willing to navigate those waters. So real quick, our friend Matthew Tan here, catching him up on a question, says, what can we get for Dobbs? Well, so the way that works is it depends on, and he didn't sign, did he?
No, he hasn't signed anywhere yet.
So it depends on how much he signs for and how much he plays next season. You probably get like a 4th or 5th round compensatory pick for him. Is that a fair assessment? 4th on the
That's what.
high end. I don't think you could get a 3rd at this point.
No, it seems like everybody's projecting a 4th or a 5th, but yeah, like you said, it depends how much he signs for, what that contract, and then how much playing time, and like if he, gets any kind of, I think All Pro or Pro Bowl factors into that too, which is unlikely with Dobbs, but you never know. So yeah, it's most likely a 4th or a 5th.
Yeah. So that's since he is a free agent, that's about what you can get for him. Yeah. So, and then the others out there, Elton Jenkins is out. Quay Walker signs with the Raiders. Who else? Bari went to the Jets, was it?
Yeah.
So okay, yeah. So there's some names headed out the door, and probably more tomorrow. Obviously, Malik Willis went to the Dolphins. But yes, so let's talk about the player the Packers did get, Zaire Franklin. Welcome to Green Bay, sir. All pro honors a couple seasons ago as a linebacker with the Colts. As far as I can see, pretty solid guy. Some of the highlights of Zaire Franklin are pretty fun. He made Josh Jacobs fumble on the goal line, which is not an easy thing to do. He's a captain. He did not have a great PFF grade in 2025, but it's one of those situations where I think the player is probably quite a bit better than the PFF grade. So I don't know if that's something we got to worry about, but what are your initial impressions of this trade, Tim?
So I think if we're getting the Zaire Franklin pre-2025, it's a damn good trade. I think he was up until 2025. He was a better player than Quay Walker's ever been, a more consistent player. He plays with an attitude. He plays, in your face aggressive, which this defense could use more guys like that. And then he fell off a cliff in 2025 and really had an awful season. So was that age catching up to him? Was that, some of his limitations? He's not very good in coverage, like teams exposing that and really taking advantage of it. Or they had a scheme change on defense. Did he just not fit that scheme change, right? Like he just wasn't a fit for it, and that made his play drop off a cliff. I don't know. That's to be determined. But he was a real good player before 2025, and I think if they would have made this trade a year ago, you've been like, yeah, he's a clear upgrade over Quay Walker. Right now, is he a clear upgrade? No. But I think if they could at least get solid play, and you're going to pay him half of what what you would have paid Quay Walker per year, it makes sense. It's just he really had a tough 2025. So you're running the risk that this is one of those, like, you pick him up, you hope to turn him around, and then, mid-season you might have to replace him and put McDuffie in there, because he was really bad for the Colts last season. Track record before that was good, but like, which player are you getting? I think he attacks the line of scrimmage. He really goes after it when he sees it, when he reads it and recognizes the run. He struggles in coverage. I think he's got the capability to maybe help Cooper, and if he can set the defense, be the green dot guy, kind of command it, attack the run, maybe that frees Cooper up a little bit where they can turn him loose a little more. But again, you're betting on somebody who had a really bad year and has athletic limitations, and he's turning 30. So he's not going to get better athletically, right? He's not going to be that kind of player again necessarily. Giving up Colby Wooden, I kind of like Colby Wooden. I thought he played good, especially the first part of last year, and then I think as the year went on, he kind of faded. And I think a lot of that is he was playing more snaps than he's ever played in his career, and I think he probably wore down. Plus, they had asked him to get bigger to play more nose tackle like he did, so he was up over 300 pounds, or around 300 pounds, which he hadn't been throughout his career. So maybe the conditioning factored in as well. But I thought he played good football for the first half of that year, and then at times in the second half, played good at times, but wasn't consistent enough. Nice player. I don't think he's a full-time, you want him starting all the time for you at defensive tackle. I mean, we were before this trade, we said they need more help at defensive tackle. And that was with Colby Wooden on the roster. I think he's a nice rotational guy that can play some nose for you, but can also probably do some other, like you could have him drop weight and be what he was before, which is more of a 3 technique and more of a versatile guy, or you can have him play nose. But I think ultimately he's not a guy you want starting every week. He's a nice in the mix rotational sub guy. I like him, but I don't think it's a huge loss to lose him. I think, they need defensive tackles, but that was the case even with him here. But yeah, it was a surprising trade, right? There were no rumors of their interest in Franklin. And I don't love it. I can see what they're thinking, what they're saying, but you really got to hope for a bounce back from Franklin to make this work.
Yeah. And that's where I trust their judgment. You know what I mean? Like, I trust that they are able to, get in there and know who the player is, who's the guy. They can analyze, why did he have a bad 2025? I mean, there's a lot of things that can go into that. And we've seen that with other players in Green Bay. And then you got to believe in your own environment, and what you're bringing him into is what can help him rebound from a bad season. So yeah, I trust them I trust their judgment on those things. I trust that they've analyzed the situation. They look at the player, they go, yeah, he may not have had a great season, but we're going to buy low on a guy that we think is still pretty damn good. And I say buy low in relativity, right? Like, if he had an all-pro season last season, you're not getting him for Colby Wooden. So I think it's just probably a difference in how he's evaluated by both sides, which I'm totally fine with, because you can look at Colby Wooden, like you were saying, I agree with you. We both liked him going into last season, and he's still a young guy, and his best football absolutely could be in front of him. There's no reason to believe it can't. Sure, maybe he's not an every down guy, but if you've got him in the right rotation, he could be a great addition to your D line, and not just for one season. So, ultimately, thank you to Colby Wooden. He was a good Packer. Appreciate your time with the G. And, I'm excited to see Zaire Franklin. I think that, you're talking about he's not going to get better athletically, and I think that's a fair point. But you're also putting him next to a freak in Edgerrin Cooper. So,
Right.
You can ask Edgerrin Cooper to do the more difficult athletic tasks, and then maybe Zaire Franklin is a little bit more of a leader and quarterback of the defense. Like we were, I don't know how to say this. Maybe he was, but Quay Walker was assumed to be, right. I think that a lot of his value, and I'd said before, Quay Walker was in that he was the quarterback of the defense. The coaches clearly saw him that way and spoke of him pretty highly in that way. And those things don't always show up on the stat sheet. So if you lost a quarterback of your defense, it sounds like Zaire Franklin is also a great leader and can step in to be that guy that can sort of direct traffic and turn Cooper loose on whatever assignment he's got, and not leave him up to having to overthink anything or do anything that he hasn't been asked to do yet. So, not everything shows up on the stat sheet, but again, like I trust their judgment on that. And, again, it's not a real high risk thing, right? You gave away a player that maybe you weren't planning on re-signing next season anyway. And I think there's also something here that tips their hand a little bit, right? And I don't think the Jalen Carter rumors going alongside this are a coincidence. I think that they make that move because, like we said, before that move, you were already thin at defensive tackle. You make that move, making yourself even more thin at defensive tackle. I don't think you do that unless you already have your other moves planned out, right? And then maybe you don't know the exact move that you can make, but maybe you've got 2 other deals that we're not even getting rumors about that are similar to Jalen Carter, right? Where you could bring in a starter quality defensive tackle to through trade from some other team, or you have a really high degree of confidence in this draft class, which I don't think is far-fetched, right? I think that this defensive tackle draft class is very strong, and I think that value goes well into to day 3. So they also may be looking at it that way, that they've got 3 shots at 3. And I say 3 kind of randomly, but they've probably got multiple shots with draft picks at this position.
It could be. And you bring up the draft. I think it also allows them to not be boxed into taking a linebacker in the draft or a linebacker, in the second or third round when their first 2 picks come up. So like if there's one there, sure, absolutely take them. But like you don't have to now. Like you got at least a year, hopefully 2 years with Franklin as your starter. Maybe it's just a year, but like you're not boxed into doing that. If there's a linebacker you like in their draft, somebody falls to you, great. Take him, add him to the mix, but he doesn't have to come in and start for you right away in 2026. You now have the ability to develop him for 2027. And if there's nobody that falls to you, board doesn't fall your way, that's fine. Like you're covered. You have enough linebackers as it is. And so from that perspective, that's something they always seem to like to do with free agent is like fill in the spots where they need players, which then allows them to not have to automatically like go and get day one starters at certain positions. They can, take best player available. So I think that makes sense for Franklin. It makes sense. We're going to talk about Sean Ryan too. Like now you don't have to go out and get a center or a linebacker that has to start for you right away. You can kind of see how the board falls. And if there's one there that you like, great. If there's not, okay, you're covered anyway.
Well, and to that point, and again, our friend Bill here has a good comment. Despite getting Franklin, if Gallday or Rodriguez is on the board, it's worth the conversation to pick a linebacker.
Absolutely.
I want to call attention to a pattern that I've called out now multiple off seasons here on the podcast. When Gute adds veterans to a position in the offseason, he typically doubles and triples down on that position in the draft. And it hasn't always been in the first round, but it's usually been at the top, towards the top of the draft. So that's where I would say maybe these are not necessarily to say, oh, now we don't need to draft those positions. Maybe these are indications that these are priorities of theirs in the draft and that this is how they operate. They always bring in a vet and then throw them in with the rookie guys. And sort of almost like the scene in the Joker, right? Or in the Dark Knight with the Joker and the guys in the pool stick, right? You drop the broken pool stick down and see who wins. But they do have a pattern of doing that where the acquisitions, the veteran acquisitions they make usually match the draft priorities they have. And I can't say, they do this with certainty because I do think they still abide by the best player available. But again, like you're the one who determines who best player available is, right? Like, so your board might tell you a quarterback is the best player available. You going to take a quarterback at 52? No. So that's where I think that there is going to be a slight skew by position, maybe not necessarily of need, but of value. And yeah, so I would not rule out Gallday or Rodriguez. Rodriguez is one that I'm pounding the table for this guy. I think that everybody's overthinking this. I'm not convinced that he will get out of the first round because I think scouts are usually smarter than the media sometimes on these things. And he's not even a bad athlete. Like the guy
he had a great combine.
As a linebacker, this man was in the Heisman conversation. Like I don't think we fully appreciate how wild that is. Like that is just unheard of. That doesn't happen. The last defensive player to win the Heisman, just defend any defensive position, was Charles Woodson. And this guy entered that conversation as a linebacker. That's nuts, man. Like that's some video game type stuff right there. And you're telling me that he's like a third round pick? I don't know about that, man. Like that just seems kind of wild to me. Like why? And it's not like it was just this random good season he had. He's been good the previous couple seasons. He wasn't a Heisman candidate, but he'd been good. And so, then you're like, well, is he a good athlete? Yeah. He tested great at the combine. He's not the best. He's no Micah Parsons, but he's a fine athlete for an NFL linebacker. There's no doubt about it. So that's where I'm looking at this going. I think this is being overthought by people in the media. And I think the scouts have a different perspective on him. I actually would be surprised if he gets out of day one. And if he is there at 52, I know the consensus board thumpers will groan at this. I think you have to take him at 52. Like to me, the tape don't lie, like you look at the tape, you're just like, this guy is around the ball all the time. And when he's there, good things happen. So I really do think that that's one that the media is overthinking a little bit. And I would be surprised if he gets out of day one. If he does, I think the Packers have to make a push for him.
Could be. I mean, he had great college production, and then he went to the combine and had an awesome workout. He's over a 9 RAS score. So, yeah, I mean, he damn good player. If he's there, I think they got to have the conversation and possibly make the move. Why not? I don't think trading for Zaire Franklin stops that idea.
No.
I just think it gives them a veteran presence so that if you make that pick, whether it's Rodriguez or Gute or whoever it is, they don't have to come in and start from day one. Like, they have the veteran Franklin, so they can develop behind. And if eventually during 2026 they take Franklin's job, so be it. If not, pencil them in for 2027. But if those guys aren't there, then it's okay too, because you already have your linebackers on the roster. So, like, you're not boxed into absolutely going into this draft and needing a starter at Mike linebacker.
Totally agree. Yeah, you're in pretty good shape right now if you don't get, your next generation starting Mike linebacker at the top of this draft. But yeah, I think what Gute would tell you if he, were on the podium right now, if you asked him about the trade and, does this change anything for your draft plans or your off season or anything like that? I think he'd tell you no. And I think he would tell you that it gives them flexibility. Right. And I think that's where you can throw the Ryan signing in there. It gives you flexibility, and so I think that's where they're at with it is they're giving themselves the ultimate in flexibility. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is day one, and this is, unofficial day one, right? This is just tampering period day one.
Right.
So there is going to be more moves in the coming days. And then, those are going to impact the Packers in one way or another, whether it's the Packers making moves or guys that they were interested in moving somewhere else. So, the lot can happen here over the next couple of days. And like I said, that can also tip your hand on what they might be prioritizing in the draft. So, yeah, good stuff, man. So we did kind of brush over the Ryan re-signing. What do you think there? Are you down on that, up on that? I kind of like it.
I think it makes sense. Again, like, free agency wasn't very good at center. You had Linderbaum, who he signed a record contract for a center. I mean, blew away the center market. And he went to the Raiders, who had tons of money to spend and had to spend on somebody. He's a very good center, but they were never going to give him that contract. It's essentially like a 3-year guaranteed contract. Green Bay was never going to be close to that, which they shouldn't be, with the way their cap is. But then after that, it was Connor McGovern, and he ended up re-signing with the Bills over the weekend. And then it was pretty much Sean Ryan or, Cade Mays, who ended up going to Detroit, but he's not necessarily any better than Ryan. There just wasn't much there in the center market unless you wanted to, rely on the draft, which is a dangerous thing. It's probably not a great draft at center. I think there's some guys there, but I'm not sure if there's a whole lot. There's a few, but I don't know if you want to rely on any of those guys starting from day one, or take the chance that you're going to get one of those guys and put him in there and plug him in as a starter day one. So, yeah, I think Ryan, once he went to center last year, was better there than he had been at guard. Obviously, he had gotten benched at guard. I don't think by any means he was great or anything like that. I thought he had his ups and downs, but got better as the season went along and at least showed promise and potential there. The contract is basically a 1 or 2 year deal, even though it's called a 3-year deal. They can get out of it after a year. They can definitely get out of it after 2 years. And it gives them a starter who they know, who has done it before, even though it was only about a 9-game, streak of starting at center. Doesn't box them into having to take a center. And, again, if there's a center there they like in the draft, take him. Or if there's a guard they like in the draft who has the versatility that they think maybe he can develop as a center as well, now you have the ability to do that. But, yeah, it makes sense. And the money, it's free agency. Yeah, is he a little overpaid? Certainly. But we saw McGovern get a big deal. We saw Linderbaum get a big deal. That's just what happens when you get to this point in your career and your contract's up and you have competition to sign a guy. That's free agency. So it makes sense. He certainly got to get better as a player, but I think as he gets more comfortable playing center, that was the first time he played center in his life. He's a college tackle. So I think there's ability for him to get better. He was definitely an improvement over what Elton Jenkins had given him the first half of the year. So, yeah, it makes sense, but they have to get better across the board on the offensive line. And this is nope. You there, Myles?
There we are. Hey, got you back.
There you go.
I don't know what happened there.
Lost you for a sec.
All right. Well, yeah, and this falls into the same thing for me. Is I think this could be an indicator that they are looking at one of those guys in this draft class that could step in at center, and maybe he's not going to start day one, but could at least push for it. Maybe that's an iron sharpened iron situation where it's like, hey, this guy's pretty good, but also Ryan is just like meeting him step for step. I also like to note that, you know, a Packer resident O-line expert, maybe unofficial expert, Mike Wall, he called Ryan a rising player on the O-line. Like, so when he watches Ryan and, you know, he's an O-lineman. I think the guy knows what he's talking about. He sees an ascending player. He sees somebody who's getting better. And if that's the case, then I think this is a great deal. I think that, you know, because again, last season, we weren't looking at Ryan the same way we looked at Josh Myers, man. Like, he was a liability. And, you know, Ryan wasn't, you know, one of the best centers in the league, but I didn't see him as the problem. Like, when we were looking at what's the problem with this offense, what's happening, I never saw him as the glaring liability. You know, it's like, maybe he made a mistake here or made a mistake there. But he never just consistently showed up as a problem. So there, maybe that's sort of a backhanded compliment, but it's sort of say like, he wasn't bad, you know, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. And if that's where you're starting and you're ascending from there, then yeah, I think that the Packers were good to re-sign him, bring him back in and do that. Now, I want to circle back to a comment I made earlier. You know, I said that when they sent Colby Wooden to Indianapolis and you made your defensive tackle room that was already thinner, you probably had multiple options lined up that you were confident you would get one of them, right? And one of those being, you probably like the draft class for defensive tackle. So we'll just kind of box that up and set that over off to the side. The other one, we've already acknowledged the Jalen Carter rumors that are happening. So that seems like that would fit that mold. Like, hey, you know, we might be losing a guy. We might be gaining a guy too. Now I'm seeing that Dexter Lawrence might also be one that the Packers have expressed interest in. So, again, not to say that that's a real thing that they could be going after him, but again, like, there might be a few of those moves they've already got lined up on the board, and Jalen Carter's the only one we're hearing about. So just as these things keep flying around, these rumors keep hitting the fan, it seems like that may be where we're at. So could be exciting. There could be a, you know, new DT1 in town, or at least you know, DT1A, DT1B with Devontae Wyatt. But yeah, I overall, I like the re-signing of Ryan. I think it was a good play. He's not a bad player. And your O-line, you need depth at the very least. You need more depth. And so he's either a good starter or a great depth piece. You know, if you got somebody who comes in that beats him out, that's a good position to be in. So that's kind of the way I would characterize that. All right, man. Well, we have gone really deep on the trades and free agency section of this thing. We were going to dive into quarterbacks and running backs for this draft class, but I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that's the flavor of the week here. I don't think that's where we should take this. Let's talk about more free agents, man. What others did you have on your list? It sounded like you had a few names you might have wanted to touch on.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're all gone. Okay.
Pretty much most of them. I mean, as far as what's out there now, for me, like, I would just like to see them add somebody to the defensive tackle room. They definitely need a nose tackle. So if that's Dalvin Tomlinson, who's getting cut by the Cardinals, who has a background with Gannon, okay. I'm not sure how much he's got left in the tank, but, you know, 1 year, if you can get that out of him, fine. I'm cool with that. We mentioned Hargrave earlier. I believe that rumor that they do have interest there whenever he's, you know, Minnesota doesn't have to cut him until Wednesday, so they can sit on him. They're probably trying to get a trade somebody to throw a pick at him before they cut him. Again, like he's coming off a down year with the Vikings, but a lot of that is probably what they were asking him to do. But he's not going to help you much against the run. He's going to be a guy that tries to get into the backfield and get after the quarterback, which is fine. They could use that too. I think if you bring in Hargrave, I think he really Carl Brooks' job will be in jeopardy, right? Like he's probably going to be. Him and Wyatt will be your two pass rushers on the interior. So they would still need a run defender. DJ Reader's out there. He's definitely a run defender. But again, over 30, but massive. And I think he's played pretty good football for the Lions recently. He's not going to give you anything for pass rush, but he's a run defender. So, yeah, I think they need to attack the defensive tackle market, whether it's a pure nose tackle, whether it's a guy that can rush, whatever it may be, both. Logan Hall's another name. He's younger. He's 26 with the Bucks, but he's only 280 some pounds. So again, like he might not fit what they want to do on the interior, but he'll give you some pass rush. I think they need to do that. If there's a corner out there, Wooleen, we mentioned, not in love with Wooleen's game, but if you can get him at an affordable price, that's reasonable. Okay, I'm fine with that. Makes sense. Beyond that, there's just not much left in free agency at this point. You're looking at guys who either are coming off bad years or injuries or both, that you're trying to like turn them around and make something out of them. And sometimes that works. A lot of times it doesn't. So I think it's very picked over in free agency at this point. There will be some more guys that will get cut as we go along here, and teams like go through their rosters and, they've added guys. So now they're going to cut a couple guys loose. So maybe there's more guys that shake loose. Again, trades could be a possibility, but yeah, what I'm hoping for at this point is, number one, just add to the defensive tackle room. And, maybe there's trades out there to be had as well.
Yeah, I think the trades is where it's most likely, but I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the list, and I'm trying to, like Josh Williams is one, and I don't know if he has gone anywhere. It's not updated on PFF yet if he's signed, but he's the cornerback from the Chiefs.
He did. Tennessee signed him.
Okay. It's not updated there. I know Jamel Dean signed with the Steelers. He was kind of at the top of the list there. But yeah, so it's pretty picked over, to your point. And it didn't take long to get there. You know what I mean? Like, as if I'm looking at the PFF list, and this is not the end all be all, but at least helps give you a little bit of a landing point. So, you got Jamel Dean at the top. You got Jalen Watson, who signed with the Rams. Reek Woolen is the one. He's at number 3 right now. And obviously there's rumors about the Packers with him, but Mike Hilton after that, and I think he had a really bad 25. Like he's 32 years old. He was probably injured in 25, it looks like. But then you get to Asante Samuel Jr., and it's like, well, they already said they didn't want him. He was available. They didn't want him.
He re-signed in Pittsburgh, and for real cheap, I think, too. So,
but they had plenty of opportunity to get him last season when they needed depth at corner, and they didn't. So Josh Williams was one that came up next. But yeah, I mean, you go from there, and it's just there's some guys that could come in, and maybe they're competing for depth spots, but they're not gonna probably make the room better. That's where I think you're gonna have to look at the draft if you're gonna try to make the room better. So that's what I would say about that from a cornerback perspective. Now, from a defensive tackle perspective, yeah, I mean, obviously, like we said, there's some trade rumors lingering out there. You've listed a few guys, but there's just not a lot of guys that fit their mold and their characteristics. There's some older guys that are available. But yeah, maybe Javon Hargrave would probably be the best one, and that's just because we've already heard rumors about him. But I also think you got to remember, every one of these guys they bring in, that's another spot that they don't have a rookie competing for. And if they really like this class, which I don't think it's hard to believe that they do, they probably want as many of those spots as they can for rookies to come in and compete. At least, you probably want 3. You probably want 3 of them coming in, 2 to 3. So you add these veteran bodies, and you got to pay for them or whatever it is. Yeah, I could see them being out on that. So yeah, I don't know how much more in free agency you're going to get, but I do think the Packers are active. I think they're active. I think it's going to be more on the trade side, and after a few small, so small, just a few like less than top of the market moves, if you will. I'd say Gute's winning so far.
I think they're fine right now. I think they've been mostly quiet, as obviously they haven't signed anyone off out of free agency, but they've been fine. I don't if you look around the league, I think it was a bad class overall in free agency. A lot of guys are getting overpaid, which always happens in free agency. And a lot of these teams that are signing a bunch of free agents, Tennessee, the Jets, the Raiders, those are bad teams overpaying because they don't have their own guys to sign to pay money to. Like, you're bad. You don't have your own guys, so you're not giving your own players second contracts or third contracts. So let's go out and spend on somebody else's, players. And they're throwing tons of money around, but they're bad teams. And I think there's a lot of good teams that haven't done a whole lot today. And that's fine. I think the Packers are being smart with it. And they obviously have lost some free agents, and they're going to continue to lose more as Dobbs and Rasheed Walker sign. But I don't think they've lost anybody that's surprising or that really hurts them much. I think they have some replacements already on hand for the guys that they're losing. And there's still going to be additions. They're still going to bring in outside players either through free agency or through trades. It's coming. And I think they're managing it, pretty well. We'll see how the trade works out. I have a lot of questions about that, but it at least makes sense. And I don't think it was like this wild overpay as far as like what they gave up to get Zaire Franklin. So yeah, I think they're fine right now.
Well, Tim, we get the privilege of ending this episode with some breaking news, sir.
Ooh, what did I miss?
The Packers are re-signing cornerback receiver Bo Melton.
Oh, that's all we need. It's done now. There's your move. Like, Gute can go home now until the draft.
Oh man, more Bo. We got more Bo, guys. I don't know if you wanted Bo Melton back, but you got him. So there you go.
More Bo.
Breaking news.
You could always use more Bo.
More Bo. You know what? Just use Bo responsibly. When they use Bo responsibly, I liked him. But when they use him irresponsibly, I don't like him at all. He's not good. He's a liability. But he is good. He's a good
special teams player.
Yeah.
And hey, that's the other thing. I don't want to get too deep into this, but they re-signed Bo, they re-signed Christian Welch, and they re-signed Nick Niemann. Special teams players for a new special teams coach. They're not all going to necessarily make the team. Probably all three won't make the initial 53, but they're at least there in competition. So, they're not completely ignoring special teams.
They are not. In fact, you could argue that they have made more special teams signings this offseason than any other position. So
we're a special teams factory now, Myles.
Yeah, man. We are going to be a special teams program. No more defense. That's gone. We are special teams again. Damn it. Maybe that was the problem. They broke the name. You can't go breaking the name. You're going to call the defense something different. You can't do that. You call the offense. You can't call the offense something that's not the offense. It doesn't work. It would break. Go off calling special teams something else. It broke. That's what you get. So anyway,
it was broke long before that.
Just a symptom of the underlying issue.
Just add it to it.
Oh man. So all right, yeah, they're prioritizing special teams, and I shouldn't mock this that much. Again, Bo Melton has had some great contributions to the Packers. Is a strong special teams player. I was not happy with their use of him at receiver last season, and I think I was not alone in that. But you can't blame that on Bo. They tell him to go in, he's going to go in. And just be more prepared next time, dude. Quit practicing a corner when you're going to play a receiver. How hard is that? Good Lord. Anyway, so we got somebody else in the comments here. You just never know what these people are up to. But at So Turtles, so I don't know if that's an insider. We've got Ricky the dog out there breaking news. So maybe we got a new turtle insider here, which says something's brewing. So maybe Turtles knows something we don't know. But I hope something's brewing. It smells like something's brewing. They got a lot of cap space. It's just day one, guys. Just day one. Day two comes in tomorrow. And like I said, the way that our show works, we always get the breaking news that we want, like Tuesday morning, crack of dawn. So that we got to wait before we can talk about it. So
the Jalen Carter trade is going down Tuesday morning.
Put your call sheet bets in, or whatever prediction market you so choose. Yeah, so that's probably how that'll go. Maybe it's not Jalen Carter, but whatever the blockbuster move is, it'll happen tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. So set your clocks. Get on Twitter. Anyway, we had some fun here tonight. We did avoid the quarterbacks and running backs prospects for the draft class, as we were going to talk about them here. We're kicking it off with that grouping because they are probably a lower priority on the Packers, and we kind of want to build up to the higher priority positions. So we'll cover those next week. If you guys are just so chomping at the bit to hear about these quarterbacks and running backs in this draft class, we will scratch that itch for you. It's coming. All right. We'll just have to do it next week. So sorry for the cliffhanger. Sorry to leave you hanging, but now you have to come back and listen to us next week. So you have no choice. That's just the way it is. And you have to deal with it. But if you're going to do that, you might as well tell a friend about it too. Bring them. Let's hang out. But we do appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on the Packers weekly podcast on the Packers Talk Network. We're here every Monday night, 9:30 p.m., streaming live. Please tell a friend. Spike that like button for us. Jump on over to YouTube and type in Packers Talk Network. That network is important. Otherwise, you just got a whole bunch of Packers talk, and it's not our network. It's not our channel. We want you on our channel because we have other good podcasts too that you should hear. Lots of flavors of different Packer fan personalities, and you should get to know all of them because they're interesting and informative. So you guys come back, hang out with us again next week. And beyond that, we will be doing all of the draft class positions, reviewing them week by week. So if quarterback and running back is not what you're interested in, come on back the following week. We will be doing another position grouping, and we're going to get right on through them. And before you guys know it, the draft will be here, and we'll have to study up on our newest Green Bay Packers teammates here. So come on back, hang out with us this offseason, guys. We're going to be here every week, hanging out, talking Pack, and love having you. And of course, as always, go.